Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Montclair Film. Good afternoon. Thank you. I love an audience. This is hard to believe, but it's the final day of our 13th annual film festival. It has been an amazing 10 days with so much great content, films, conversations, panels, and special events. And we are finishing out the day really strong and really happy to be here for Lights, Camera, Growth, the economic impact of New Jersey film credits. Today's panel is co-sponsored by the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, and we're grateful to them for their support. We appreciate you spending the afternoon with us, and we hope that you've already engaged with so much of what we've already done. But like I said, we still have a full day of content, so if there's something that you still want to see, check us out at montclairfilm.org. There's still a handful of films today throughout the evening. As you probably know, Montclair Film is a nonprofit organization, and we rely on the support of our sponsors, our donors, and our members. And we're really grateful to everyone who supported us. And we just ask you that take a look at the film guide. If you notice an organization that has supported us, and there's an organization you want to check out, give them a little bit of love for all that they've done for us. I want to especially thank our sponsors for this festival. Our exclusive audio sponsor is Audible. Our executive sponsor is the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. Our signature sponsors are Craig Newmark Philanthropies, Montclair Mezzanine Grabowski Development, and the Ankler. And our presenting sponsors are American Express Foundation, the Montclair Center Bid, Bloomberg Philanthropies, JP Morgan Private Bank, Hackensack Meridian Mountainside Medical Center, Hiker, Porta, and JPBS, the New Jersey Division of Travel and Tourism, and Netflix. We also want to thank our members. Our members provide us with annual support that allows us to sustain our organization. In return, our members get early access to tickets for the festival, they get discounts and special opportunities throughout the year. If you are so willing, we'd love for you to join and become a member. And lastly, I want to thank our incredible team and our incredible group of volunteers. Everybody that's in a pink t-shirt, Ken, you're the first person I see, is a volunteer. We have over 500 volunteer shifts that we fill throughout the festival, and we literally could not do this without our amazing team of volunteers. So thank you to them. Let's give everybody a round of applause. And I'm really excited to introduce our panel for the day. So our moderator is Elizabeth Parchment. Elizabeth is the Director of Marketing and the Chief Diversity Officer at the NJEDA. She's also going to moderate the panel. Elizabeth serves as the primary architect of multi-channel efforts to market New Jersey's leadership in film, as well as the economic benefits of a strong film industry in the state. Given the steady influx of production activity, Elizabeth led the development of the state's Film Ready New Jersey program, designed to certify municipalities as film ready and provide cooperative opportunities with the movie and TV producers. She has over 12 years of extensive experience with the legislature, operational, and volunteerism experience. Elizabeth previously served as the first Chief Diversity Officer and as the Deputy Director of the Governor's Office of Volunteerism, and in several capacities. You are impressive. And in several capacities at the New Jersey General Assembly, including Deputy Clerk, Policy Operations Manager, and Policy Analyst. We are so grateful. Elizabeth's done a few panels for us, and we're so happy to have her today to share this information with us. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Beth, and I'd like to bring up our wonderful panelists. I'm going to first start with Carol Cuddy. Carol Cuddy is a commissioner for the New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Commission. She has worked as a unit production manager and producer on studio and independent films, network television, streaming series, and documentaries. And some of her credits are very impressive, include The Departed, Men in Black, The Interpreter, Rachel Getting Married, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, the network television series Elementary, HBO series True Detective and The Staircase, as well as the Netflix series Maniac, and a few documentaries such as Down and Out in America and Shine a Light. And Carol is also a member of the Directors Guild of America and the Television Academy. So please welcome Carol. Next, I'd like to bring up my executive director, John Crowley, who has been serving as the senior leader for the New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Commission, leading all of New Jersey's film initiatives, including the NJEDA's film sector development work, as well as the management of the Film Commission. Prior to joining the NJEDA, John worked within the television industry for over 2 decades, producing and directing several well-known television series, including Impractical Jokers, I'm sure you've all heard of that, House Hunters International, Big Brother, Lizard Lick Towing, among many others. John is a 2-time Emmy Award winner and Cable Ace Writing nominee. He has also been a vice president at NBC, Comcast, the Food Network, and Time Warner. Please welcome John. And finally, I'd like to bring up Chris Del Vecchio. In his current role with the NJEDA, Chris assists film and television productions with obtaining financial assistance via the NJEDA's Film and Digital Media Tax Credit Program. Chris has worked for various county and state agencies, but spent most of his time working for the New Jersey Motion Picture and Television Commission. In that role, Chris assisted both large and small film television projects to secure locations and connect with local officials, as well as navigating the various logistical challenges that productions face when filming in New Jersey. Excuse me. Please welcome Chris. So we have a very exciting discussion for you today. Last year when we were here, we spoke about, I would say in 1 year, things have changed as well as some things have stayed the same. It's very exciting that the film and television industry in New Jersey is continuing to see a resurgence and an explosion as well as stable growth. And last year we reported some really impressive numbers for 2022. About $700 million, and I'm sure John will go into those numbers again for 2023 as our annual report has just come out. Very impressive, even despite the Writers Guild union and the union strikes of last year, we still saw a very steady influx of productions filming in New Jersey. So the future is very, very bright for New Jersey, and we're very excited to share some new opportunities and some new programs and how our tax incentive program has really been a staple in New Jersey and has really attracted a lot of the production in New Jersey, as well as what we're doing on the commission level. And we have Carol has since joined our commission as our commissioner, and she's doing really great work here. So I'm just going to dive into our first question. John. Yes. Okay. So New Jersey is considered the birthplace of film and has numerous selling points for film productions and studios. What are the ways that you and the commission are messaging to studios and networks to encourage them to bring their projects to New Jersey?
Good question. So, it's funny because you just mentioned this is the birthplace of film, and most of you probably know this, but Edison had created a tax or a licensing fee, right, to use his technology and his cameras. And a lot of the early filmmakers at that point said they didn't want to pay it. So that's what initiated the migration west, was to get as far away from him as possible in paying the tax. So I say, the funny thing is with the governor and with our legislators, they've initiated, a few years back, these great tax incentives. So it's taxes that chase the industry away, and it's tax incentives that are bringing them back. So it's really sort of full circle. So I'm just going to ask you all now to join hands and let's sing Circle of Life from Lion King, please. But that's pretty fascinating, I think. The irony, I love that. And so when I was show running, I used to say to my staff, let's try to get our cut as good as possible so that we're not giving our executives at the network the opportunity to pick up the pen and put a note on the show. So for us in the commission, it's sort of looking for ways to get rid of the no from studios and networks and showrunners, give them every reason to come here to the state. So in terms of what are we doing to get the word out, it's really, as great as the incentives are, it is a constant job of outreach and business development and spreading the word. So the commission is represented by going out every other month to the West Coast, and it's a different silo. You know, all these corporations are so siloed on the network and the studio side, and the secret sauce really is drilling deeper. It's great to meet with Bob Iger, it's great to meet with Ted Sarandos, but we're drilling deeper to the heads of production, to government relations, to the tax incentive people at each of these places, to our community relations, so that we're doing workforce development, that's another discussion. But it's just drilling deeper and deeper and deeper and more often. I walked into a meeting at Warner Brothers last month, 14 executives there, and I looked and I was like, there are 3 new faces in this room, which means there are 3 familiar faces that are no longer here. So there's always a change, and what you want to do is try to get that conversation going so that when they do have to have the conversation of like, where do we want to film this project? If you've done your work, at least one person in that conversation says, how about New Jersey? And if one person says the words New Jersey, then you're off to the races, because then everything else helps to sell. So for me to stop gabbing any further and really get to the point, it's the tax incentives, which are great, and then it's the variety of locations that we have in this state that you have to make people aware of. And also the state is compact geographically speaking, and for a unit production manager to say like, you can go from a beach to a mountain with snow in 90 minutes, is that they just see the dollar signs sort of drifting away to know like, wow, I can do a company move that quickly. And if you haven't been to New Jersey and you live on the West Coast, it's important to point that sort of thing out, because time is money, right? And also, growing up in Los Angeles, I can say this, they don't have the variety of locations that we do. Yes, they have mountains, yes, they have a beach, but they don't have small Mayberry RFD or a big city, or the snow and the mountains so relatively close to each other, or all the variety of the brick and the Art Deco sort of architecture. They can't get that back there, and you can get that here. The other thing is our experienced workforce. That's a huge plus. Because the question is always, outside of LA and New York, where do they have as experienced a workforce in our country? It doesn't exist except here. And of course the joke is, and I can say this to Montclair residents, is that 40% of the experienced New York crew lives in New Jersey. So that's a great selling point, because guess what? That crew does not want to get into a bridge or a tunnel to go an hour to work. They'd rather get in their car and drive 30 minutes down the road to go to work in their own backyard, right? So it's the locations, it's the incentive, it's the workforce, and the infrastructure as well, which is all of our gear, grip and electric equipment, our stages, which are growing by leaps and bounds. We didn't have cameras in state until about a month ago. Now we have motion picture cameras. Aeroflex is back, so it keeps growing and growing and growing. And again, it's trying to get rid of the nose. So sorry, that's a long answer, but there's a lot to pitch that's good about New Jersey.
There are so many selling points, as you can see, from our tax incentive to our locations to an outstanding film commission. You're right. New Jersey is the place to film.
Well, you just said film commission. That's the last part of it, is when a studio comes here, we're here to walk you through all the ordinances that exist around the different municipalities in the state. You're looking for locations, we take you out and we'll help you find locations. It's working collaboratively with our towns to try to find a solution for a filmmaker when they're trying to get through. But that's something Carol can talk even more about than I can. But yeah, the commission is unlike many that exist around the country, because we're as hands-on as you want us to be.
We certainly are. And so with all of those points, those selling points, I'd like to just drill down a little deeper on our tax incentive program. So the New Jersey Film and Digital Media Tax Credit has been incredibly successful in attracting productions and studios to the state, as John has mentioned, offering generous incentives and production bonuses. Chris, can you speak to why New Jersey's production tax credit has been so successful compared to those in other states? And is there anything in particular that you'd like to also mention about our tax credit program that really makes us stand out? I'm kind of hinting here of our diversity bonus, and I'd like you to really drill down a little deeper on that.
Sure. So first and foremost, definitely, our incentives are great. They're very competitive with the rest of the country, but it actually can't be said enough just how valuable the Film Commission's work is. I hear it all the time from producers that, like the LA Film Commission, they're very hands-off. They don't really do much. You can hardly get them on the phone, but these guys, they go over and above. A lot of times, productions are even like, why do we need to hire a location manager again? Because, we have them sending, hundreds of locations in a package. So that's first and foremost. But our actual incentives are, I believe there's no other state that has higher actual percentages than us. It's 35% on all wages and salaries across the board, and then it's 30% on all goods and services. And then you get an additional 5% bump on goods and services if you're filming outside of the 30-mile studio zone. It's a radius that's from Columbus Circle, about 30 miles, and it's determined by the union. So it's in order to incentivize production getting to South Jersey and areas outside of that radius, they could get a 5% bump on goods and services. So in addition to that, it's possible for them to get up to 39% with diversity bonuses. So New Jersey is actually the only state in the entire country that has a bonus like this. As long as 25% of your cast and crew are either women or diverse employees, you can get 2% essentially back on all of your qualified spend. And then there's an additional bonus as well. So there's two diversity bonuses. The first 2% is 25% of your total cast and crew. The second 2% is to try to incentivize companies hiring New Jersey performers. So the second 2% is for hiring essentially New Jersey residents to be on-screen performers in the film. So having said all of that, they could get as much as 39% back, which I've looked into it before, and I don't know that there's any state that comes close to that. So that's obviously a big reason why the incentives have been successful. Another reason is there's no cap on projects. So, if a small production comes in, they're allowed to apply. There's no minimum budget or anything like that. And then there's no maximum budget either. So we're really, inclusive to all project sizes. So that attracts, large and small, as I said. Another thing that going forward I think is really differentiating us is we recently had some changes that allow for reality shows to now qualify, which is something that a lot of states don't allow. And the requirements for reality shows to qualify are they have to spend at least $1 million and also film at least 60% of the show in the state. So these high thresholds kind of are weeding out some of like the lower quality shows. Nobody likes Jersey Shore references and all that, but so we're bringing a higher quality class of reality here, and also it's incentivizing talk shows and some of these longer term investments into the state as well. And then also there is recently a post-production incentive that was added to the repertoire of incentives here. So that helps us compete with some other states like New York and Georgia that have different post-production incentives and really brings like a full-service kind of package into the state. We're attracting different post VFX houses and post houses and stuff like that now. So we just have a really robust and complete incentive program that I think helps differentiate us along with the locations, the crew base, the film commission, and all that good stuff.
Wonderful. And so as you see, a part of our tax incentive program, it shows the values of New Jersey. And Chris, would you say that most of the tax credit projects are applying for the diversity bonus and they're going and meeting that 25% threshold and going above and beyond that, right? So that indicates...
I'm shocked if I see one that doesn't apply for it. So.
Yeah, yes. So that indicates to not only to New Jersey and the industry that the industry is very serious about moving the needle in this area.
Yes, and that's another thing, that these studios and these companies, like, they really appreciate that our values kind of align with theirs.
Okay, wonderful. So Carol, just adding on to that as well, about the tax credit program, and its role in encouraging in-state production. How important are these programs to production companies when deciding where to film? And is there anything from your lens, your angle, also as a commissioner, as a producer, that you see that's unique about New Jersey's program in comparison to those offered by other states?
Well, I think the diversity that we were just talking about, because that's become a very important issue for the studios, I think, making up for past damage, should I say, the studios, the networks, the streamers, that because we are the state that also identifies that as something we need to take care of and fix, has become a special part of it. But ultimately, it's what the percentage is, and above the line, meaning the actors, director, and writers, that those fees are not always qualifying in tax credits around the country. And tax credits have become the way studios and all determine where they're going to go now. It's, if you don't have a tax incentive, they'll come to your state for a day or two to minimally get what they need to do, but then they're out of there. So there's a big difference now in the approach for that.
Okay, thank you for that. So we've touched on our tax incentive program, and as John has mentioned earlier, there are several pillars and selling points in New Jersey that attract production to the state, and it's really happening at a fierce rate. So John, can you speak a little bit to our Film Ready program? We had mentioned when we were here last year, we were just about 1 year in of launching our Film Ready program statewide, which has been the mechanism for municipalities taking away kind of the fear of welcoming productions to their towns, to their localities, as well as municipalities that have also seen a lot of production and are used to filming, like Montclair, but providing another level and added and enhanced layer of a program that is signaling to the industry that New Jersey is not only welcoming production, but we're really being aggressive about it and being very thoughtful and intentional about how we're training our municipalities and educating them on what needs to happen, what needs to take place in order to be welcoming. So can you, so how does the Film Ready program, can you unpack for us how the Film Ready New Jersey program helps local communities attract TV and film production?
Sure. Now, what Elizabeth isn't telling you is that Elizabeth has been the team leader on all this for the last couple of years. So thank you for all the work that you've done in getting this up and running. It's a great program. It's a 5-step program. You need to attend well, let me back up. What is Film Ready? Film Ready is being able to reach out to all of our different municipalities and towns, and it's the what to expect when expecting a film production, basically, is what it is, which I think we should do a riff on that book cover. You remember that, what to expect when expecting? Yeah, we should do that. What to expect when expecting a film production. And so there's a workshop. You come to the workshops, 2 or 3 hours long. There's something for police, there's something for fire, there's something for our elected officials to take away in learning about production. Then when you go back home, you assign a liaison to work with the Film Commission, and you either pass a film permit ordinance or a code of conduct, and then you also list into what we're calling the NJ 411, which is a production services list. So if you have businesses in town that would be of assistance to a production, a dry cleaners, a caterer, a gas station, hardware store, that goes into the database. And then there's also a place for you to put photographs of locations around town that you think would be of interest to a director or location scout and what have you. Now, from the state's perspective, it's a great asset because when studios and networks are looking to move into New Jersey, they can go to our website, which is undergoing a big review, by the way, and a rehab, which hopefully in the next few months it'll be zhuzhed up and it'll look even better. But it's a great resource for them because that's often their first stop here in the state of when they're looking for locations. They've got a script and now they're doing the breakdown and they're trying to figure out where to shoot. So it's a great asset from that and from that perspective, and then also from our NJ411, building out a list of what sort of services do we have in the state. And we're adding a component which we can start talking about this week now of we're gonna have an interactive map. So when a production comes in, remember what I said about how geographically compact the state is? This map now, you'll be able to say, well, I'm filming in Toms River, but I'm moving up to, name the place, Newark or Montclair. Can I keep my caterer, or what do I need to do? You'll be able to string yourself around from base camp to base camp to base camp. So UPM can be able to look and very quickly, efficiently say, oh, that's only 15 miles from there to there. This is great, and they can plan their schedules a little bit more efficiently. And that's something that I know Real Scout's going to be stealing from our idea platter, and they're going to be applying that elsewhere around the country, but it's going to be another helpful tool. So Film Ready is also undergoing sort of a metamorphosis right now, because what we noticed is that from town to town to town, there was a big variance in what people were charging, what towns were charging on their film permit fees. And Carol's the one, and Mayor Janice Kovach, who's one of our other commissioners, always say to a town, I don't want to get too into the weeds, but you're not going to balance your budget with a film permit fee, right? So what we're looking to do is you want a production to come into town. You don't want them to be dissuaded from coming to you because of a high permit fee. They want to put the money on the screen, right? That's where they want their budget to go. And you as residents, you as electeds, want the money to be spent in your businesses. And Carol just helped Happy Gilmore with one location in particular, and you can talk about that. I don't want to steal your thunder on that. And the country club where they were shooting the golf scene, it was a huge windfall for them, right? That's what you want. You want the money to go there, not to a borough with film permit fees. So what we're doing is we are streamlining the system so that when you go shoot in the 5 boroughs, it's a uniform set of permit fees. So films sometimes get their heads want to pop off their shoulders because they know it's home rule, and there are 560 some odd different towns around the state that they know now if they go to a film ready town, they know what to expect in terms of the permit fees, and it'll be streamlined because we're all going to be on the same playing field. If you don't want to join Film Ready, you don't have to. That's your prerogative as a town. But if you want to be part of the pitch and say, come to these towns that are film ready, that's going to generate more business, I think. In Montclair, we were talking before, top of the list in terms of where productions go in the state, #1. Not like Newark or Hoboken or Jersey City. It's right here. So you want to continue that.
Great response. So you had mentioned, you touched on the businesses, the benefit, the economic impact to small businesses, and you also had mentioned that this is not the Film Ready program, and permits and fees do not fill the budget. It's not a revenue raiser for municipalities, but we're seeing very significant economic impact to town, to the small businesses. So local municipalities benefit significantly from TV and film production within their towns. So when productions come to local communities, how do you ensure that small businesses and other organizations within these communities benefit? You touched on that a bit with the NJ411, but is there any other ways that we're ensuring that small businesses are benefiting, organizations here are benefiting from the productions that come not only to the state but come into their community?
I think the biggest benefit is our NJ411, and we're with that upgrade that I'm talking about. Now, if you're a small business owner, you're going to be able to advertise for free. Mm-hmm. We don't charge anything. You can put a link to your website, some photographs on there, put your best foot forward in terms of advertising your services to a production or to a studio or to a network. We also have the Garden Slate newsletter, which goes out to a very wide audience, and we're doing features all the time on that. We now have somebody that is on a weekly basis doing posts which are, vendor spotlights and location spotlights. So that goes out on 3 different platforms: Facebook, Instagram, and X. So we're hyping our businesses, our providers, our services that way. And then, when we go out and we're doing business outreach to the studios and networks, we're always talking about, like, a question will come up: can you do visual effects? Well, guess what? It's getting more and more expensive to live in Brooklyn and Queens, and we have a lot of great visual effects artists that are coming into the state to live here because it's more affordable. So we have an army of that growing. You want to do volume work? Yeah, we have 3 places in the state. We have to be careful. I can't push one place over another. There's ethics violations, so I can't do that. But we certainly are messaging out all the time. You want to do post-production, you need grip and electric, we have all that. But Carol, do you want to tell the story about with the club and in terms of like local business? Probably a better question is, when you were working on a production, how much did you see on your productions that were going into local spends? Like, I'm sure you did that a lot.
I would say on the day of shooting, the crew arrives and they've been given a sheet that the location department usually puts together. Well, it wouldn't be a printed sheet at this point, and it'll list like the coffee shops or dry cleaners you mentioned, but smaller places that somebody in the crew might want to go to for various services. A hardware store, those are kind of the obvious ones. Where's our ice cream? All those different smaller businesses that are there, and if there's an awareness of them, that's part of what location does, and as part of what everything that John was just describing is already on the list and available, so it makes it even easier. And if a town knows that that's what they have to do with this crew that's coming in, there is notification days before that this is happening, that people are aware, business owners are aware, and that's how you increase the traffic. I mean, the companies will bring in their catering and that kind of thing, but the crews are always going out. Like, who's going for the coffee run? Or those are the things. Or the set dressers and the carpenters who arrive days beforehand are always running off to the local hardware store or the miscellaneous shops in town that the people just on their lunch break start shopping in. So it's those smaller things. The country club was more of, they had been approached by Happy Gilmore, but just didn't know the first thing about it. So I was able to tell them, like, and I speak quite frankly and say, it's an invasion. And hundreds of people are going to show up here, so be prepared for them and ask them where they're going to park. Ask them how they're going to feed 400 extras. Ask them. So I gave them that information so that there's an awareness, and that's what the Film Ready does on a town basis, to say, this is what can happen, and each time they come back, they're going to come and scout the location, and you're going to learn more. But if they know the process, that is a business owner who's been approached by filming or a town, it really helps everybody, because then you're all speaking the same language and there aren't surprises. Nobody wants surprises.
So the municipality, as Carol had mentioned, as what we were training and educating them about mining the small businesses that can service productions once a production comes to their town. And so they're understanding that this is an ecosystem. But John, you have to give your example of before you came to the commission and when you filmed, and the project that benefited your town, that benefited when you filmed in your town, the $30,000 project.
Well, yeah, and what Carol was just talking about, and what Chris, you mentioned about, we've got a lot of depth on the bench here in the Film Commission, and what you're mentioning, that you can go into a town and the Film Commission is, well, the experience that I always had is I would roll into a town on a production and the Film Commission be like, hey, have fun, and that was the last time you saw them. And so, as I said earlier, we're as hands-on as you want us to be. So this is a secret asset, not so secret, but this person right here is an asset to the Film Commission with all of her experience. That's why she's here today. And we have another person, Janice Kovach, who's a mayor. Great asset in terms of knowing who's who in the state. And then a lot of you already know David Schoner, who is our senior advisor and been 40 years with the commission and knows everybody, I swear, in this state. And it's great because we walk the walk and we talk the talk, right? So when a production rolls in, we can help find a collaborative way of working with the town and knowing where sticky situations may exist and where it's going to be smooth sailing for a town and a production, both sides of the equation. But the story that Elizabeth is talking about is I had a very small budget film that I was directing for Warner's. And I had 6 days that I needed to shoot in a school, film in a school. And there was an empty school in my town that the Catholic Church had left. So it was perfect for us. So in the 6 days, because we were outside the TMZ, we got a hotel for the crew. And every day, my camera crew was at the coffee shop because they were tired of Crafty's coffee, and they were going to the coffee shop every day. Coffee shop was ecstatic. The cleaners we were using, the crew was also getting a little tired of the catering. We had lunches catered by our local barbecue place, Woody's. And in 6 days, we spent almost $30,000, which is small by comparison of a budget with Happy Gilmore. But the windfall for a town of 5,000, that was fantastic. All the businesses were ecstatic. So, and then one of the crew actually moved to our town. So that was the gift that kept giving for years and years with property taxes. So, you know, a lot of benefit.
A lot of benefit, and these small businesses too that do have a special designation. If they're a minority-owned business, if they're a women-owned business, we within our New Jersey 411, we are encoding that to make sure that we're amplifying those businesses that do have those special designations, because it's a part of our tax incentive program too. So production companies are looking for those businesses that do have those special designations. Okay, so I'd like to move on to talk about locations. That's another pillar for New Jersey, our selling point. So Carol, as a successful producer, you have extensive experience with selecting locations and knowing the right location for a project. Why is location selection so critical in the production business, and why does New Jersey check so many boxes when it comes to filming locations?
Well, the locations, of course, start with a script because, there are a lot of components in why you choose to come to New Jersey, and the script being, and what John was referring to earlier, is a diversity of geography and the locations and between the wealthy suburbs and the urban and the beaches and the mountains and all the other things, the farmland that's here and that kind of thing. So if you have a script that's not, let's say, not James Bond, but just a regular script where there are hospitals and homes and offices, and when you think about a lot of the movies that are out there or TV series, New Jersey, of course, has all of that, and it becomes a matter, then it ties into the tax incentive. So when you know that there's this incredible, like, top of the line tax incentive, and you've got a state that's as diverse in looks, and then what John's talking about is being able to get from one place to the other. Those are more of the components, and then the director's vision. It has the writer's vision to start with, and then the director saying, well, yeah, this cheats for Massachusetts. We don't need to go to New England, and yeah, we can figure out Oklahoma if we go down south. And there are those things that New Jersey does that a lot of other states don't. Georgia has been a huge state tax incentive. The kind of winning, let's say if it's a race or a contest, getting the most business, and they came out of nowhere, but they had this huge tax incentive, and then all of a sudden studios got built. So productions left LA, they left New York, they went there, and now they're coming back here because we're building stages. We have the crews, we have the best crews. I mean, there might be comparable crews in the world, but we have the best crews because New York, and John said 40% are living here in the state. And we have all the support services. You don't have to go to LA to get a camera. It's all here. And those are the reasons when you start doing, because it all comes down to money, of course. And you schedule something, you figure it out. It's like, we wouldn't have to leave the state. We would only have to go, let's say, a 1 4-day trip to do second unit in another state to cheat and make New Jersey look like it all was filmed all over the country, or however the script is written. And that's what makes a difference in choosing it. It becomes money, of course.
You know, right now, September, October, New York has 7 major features going on. LA's got 6, Georgia's got 5, Louisiana's got 1, Texas, none. Anybody want to take a guess what New Jersey has? Anybody? 10? Who? 12. We have 12 right now. Now, as we push out to December, LA and New York catch up to us, but we are still busier than Toronto and Ottawa, and we'll go into the third slot, but I'll take number 3 to LA and New York any day of the week. That's a great place to be. So that is because of all these pillars that Elizabeth is talking about that, you know, are acting as a huge draw.
And as a commission, we've been very aggressive about adding the number of images and locations in our Real Scout database, which is the platform to showcase New Jersey to the world, to the industry. And we invite not only municipalities, but we invite homeowners and those who own businesses to apply for a listing in our directory, in our location library, because the more we showcase New Jersey, its uniqueness, its charm, it attracts productions to the state. And my motto has always been to say that when one municipality or one community wins, the state of New Jersey wins. So it's very important that we continue to mine the beautiful locations in New Jersey. All right, so going back to our digital media tax credit program, Chris, as you know, that our tax credit program has been highly successful. Can you speak to how production numbers have shifted since the program's introduction?
Yeah, sure. So in the first year, or actually half of year of the program, there was an $18 million spend. That's in a half of a year, of course. So if you want to say 38 million or 36 million, go for it. But last year, state fiscal year 23, it was 760 million. So needless to say, it has skyrocketed under the program. State fiscal year 24, we haven't tabulated all the numbers yet. The writer's strike played a major role in that. Basically, production halted for more than half the year. But even so, it was still, I believe, we're up to 400 million, and the numbers haven't even been finalized yet. So numbers have absolutely increased, and they only track to increase more with the building of certain infrastructure, like the Netflix studio at Fort Monmouth, 1888 studios in Bayonne. It's only going to skyrocket from here.
Have applications increased, decreased? Has there been a steady flow of
I mean,
applications?
this year, like last quarter, we had 15 approvals, which is insanely high. The quarter before, I think it was 6. So it's continuing to pick up from the strikes. And I know there was chatter about another potential strike. So I think production maybe slowed down a little bit at the beginning of the year, but it's picking up. And my job never got any easier, so I never noticed a slowdown.
And can you also speak to just the internally how the EDA has really put things in place to making sure that the tax credit program is not only turning out applications, but the timing that goes into that, and why that really differentiates us from other states.
That's a good point. That's another thing that definitely companies like about filming in New Jersey. So if you get a tax incentive in New York, by the time when you're approved, you can expect to get the tax incentive in 3 to 4 years. So it takes quite a long time. But in New Jersey, right now, it's tracking about 7 to 11 months, depending on the size of the project. So they're getting their tax credits certificates pretty quickly here, which they appreciate.
Thank you.
And we're also funded out until?
2040.
So if you're a studio or network, you know there's some stability there. And you can start planning ahead and knowing that you can come here.
So how much is in the pot every year, Chris?
I was going to get to that later on, but so there's actually 3 separate allocations. It gets a little bit confusing. It's $100 million each year for what we call the legacy film tax credit allocation. So those are your normal film and television projects. There's also an allocation for studio partners, which is a separate allocation for essentially companies that are building or leasing at least 250,000 square feet of space for 10 years or more. So these are your Netflixes, your Lionsgates. Those are the 2 approvals we have so far. They have a separate allocation each year of $150 million. And then there is another designation, which is referred to as a film lease partner facility, and thus another 3 designations, and they have to commit to building or leasing 250,000 square feet for at least 5 years, and they have their own allocation of $150 million each year. Anything that's not used in the previous year is rolled over to the next year, considering there haven't been any studios built, and only this year is the first year that those applicants are able to apply. We have over $1 billion in each of those buckets right now, waiting to be tapped into. So yeah.
Thank you. So you mentioned studios. Everyone wants to know about the studios that are coming online in New Jersey. So John, Chris, studio construction in New Jersey has been in the news recently with major projects like Netflix at Fort Monmouth and Lionsgate in Newark. What contributions can these major studios make to the broader film and television production sector in New Jersey? And probably more so, John, the second question would be, are there any specific upcoming projects that you are particularly excited about? But before you answer that, I will just say that any project with Kiefer Sutherland, that's what I'm excited about. So if you can help in that regard, John, I would appreciate that.
I don't know if Kiefer is coming here. I know you've seen in the news Adam Sandler is here, and Hugh Jackman is here, and Claire Danes. So all 3 of them are in state right now, and they've all been great. Like every time you open up, your laptop, there's a picture of one of them at a diner or saying hello to people. So they've been great ambassadors. And then we do set visits just to check up and see how things are going. And they all have said, like, we love it here. This is great. Plus, I don't want to talk derisively of any other state or town, but I know for a fact it's easier to film here. If you've got a scene on a street, the towns are very, very willing to work collaboratively with production and what have you, to be able to facilitate them getting a shot. And neighbors and residents are not so fatigued with production that they welcome it too. And then all you need is one star to put a post that I had a meal in this diner, or I got a shirt, in this boutique, and things explode. There was some place I heard in Newark. It was, do you remember the name of the business? He does these great T-shirt designs, and one of the stars put out that she bought a dress or a shirt, and it was just like sold out. The inventory just sold out within a week. It was great. Yeah. So it's say again.
Savvy Consignment Shop, was that?
That was one.
Union?
Yes, Gabrielle Union. Yes. So there's that. To go back to your original question, there's that sort of. I'm trying to think of the word, that effect, that spread that happens with businesses. There was an article that just came out about a week ago about hotels and the hotel industry and how they're really already seeing an uptick in their business when a production comes in. I predict that when Bayonne gets built and when Netflix goes up, that you'll be seeing some luxury developments that will come in. And you'll also see, the Sheratons and the Hiltons of the world and luxury brands alongside of them, because you're going to need a place to put your crew. Because some of your crew live upstate and they don't feel like driving home. So if they're down in Central Jersey, they'll be there, and all the other associated businesses. There's a lot of workforce training that we're talking about right now. There are people that might be in trade school. Maybe they're welding or they're carpenters or they're painters, and they're thinking about, what do I want to do? And knowing that the entertainment industry is coming here, they're going to look for a pivot, maybe in their late 20s or 30s, and all of a sudden say, you know what, I can make a good living working in entertainment. And with the influx of these studios and productions, that might be something that they can explore. And so we've been talking with a lot of different people about workforce development. And you and I have a meeting, I think, coming up in a couple of weeks about this. That's super exciting. Can't really sort of message out on that yet because it's in the nascent stages, but it's sounding very, very positive. And I think leadership in other sectors, whether it's the guilds or the studios and the networks, realize that we need to develop more talent up and down the state. I will say this: Bayonne shoveling ground either the very end of this year or in January. And Netflix, you were saying that the studios are in the news. There'll be more in the news in the coming weeks because Netflix is going to start demolition work of some of the older buildings on Fort Monmouth, which means that as those walls are going down, the purpose-built stages walls are going to be going up, and that'll be happening, I think, in December, late November or in December. So that's exciting because that's going to signal to everybody like it's not just talk anymore, like it's really happening, and they're coming.
Thank you. Carol or Chris, did you want to add to any opportunities that you see on the broader production sector as it relates to these major studios coming to the state?
Yeah, I mean, to John's point, don't want to get overexcited right now because the shovel hasn't been in the ground yet. But I mean, looking at some of these projects, we're not talking about small studios. They'll be both of them in the top 5 biggest studios in North America. The Bayonne facility, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, will be the largest film studio in North America when it's done. Or second, one of the two. But it's truly
big.
massive, 1.1 billion square feet. And if you see the artist renderings of what this looks like I cannot downplay it enough. Like, it's going to transform that area of Bayonne. It's amazing. It really is. And also to mention, too, with the opening of that facility, 1888, that opens up, back to tax incentive stuff, that opens up a lot more money for other projects, because people right now are competing for the legacy bucket, but once these places like 1888 come on board, they'll have extra money to go into, so it's exciting.
So what do you mean by that? Can you unpack? Because the
yeah.
actual studio lease partners, those allocations aren't a
So-
tax incentive.
So the studio partner allocation, the Netflix, Lionsgate, they essentially make their own films, and they're going to be the ones using the studio partner allocation. But for the film lease partner facilities, they're developers. It's a developer-based thing, and they don't actually receive any money. The people that receive the incentives are the productions that use the facility. So, a production can rent space in 1888, and then they would be able to receive increased benefits, essentially, in addition to, so they receive 40% on wages and salaries as opposed to 35% with the legacy program, and they're allowed to include excess above-the-line benefits as well. And they have that separate $150 million allocation, so they're not fighting with other companies over the legacy bucket. So there'll be a lot more money to go around once those are open.
When you asked about choosing locations, stages are kind of become the decision maker, because if you don't have stages in a place, as much as you want that percentage, then you're in a warehouse and you're air conditioning it and you're soundproofing it and doing that, and that happens all the time too. But the fact that there will be stages with additional incentive is huge in that world of seeking where is the best place to go. And when you have a stage like that, that's when you're apt to bring in a TV series that you hope goes on for as long as Law and Order, or that's the ultimate length of running on a series. But anyway, if several years in a row, and for somebody who owns a stage to have that kind of income guaranteed coming in because of that's where it goes.
And the collateral benefits of having like a SVU or FBI Most Wanted, right? So the stage owner is making money from their rental for their facility, and then there's all that crew that stays employed for a year, 2, 3, 4 years. Then there's grip and electric, so your lights and all your group equipment, that's rentals, that's keeping our rental houses busy, their employees busy. So the collateral spend and how it gets spread around is significant. It's not just, 20th Century Fox is benefiting from the tax incentives. It's all the money that's being spent on all these other areas.
So there's a lot of economic impact and development happening here. Okay, bonus question for anyone who wants to answer. What is your outlook for New Jersey's film and television industry next 5 years?
Well, everything we just said is why it's just going to explode or continue to explode, because it's already exploded in the last couple of years since the incentive went in. But as soon as we have those stages, when you can go across the river and get your New York Empire State Building shots and that kind of stuff and still qualify for the New Jersey kind of tax incentive, it takes away from the draw to have to be in New York, which is one of the bigger competitors in terms of, because it's our crew base, it's our equipment and all those kinds of things, and it's here.
They're already feeling it, I will add. New York, they're already feeling the impact of us stealing away a lot of their production.
What? I won't say that
Not
publicly.
stealing.
I'll say it, they're feeling it.
But I will say that New York and New Jersey, it's a collaborative thing where people on the West Coast can look at us and say, wow, there is no reason to say no. But I'll also say that I look at what the Film Commission does as sort of like the people that paint the White House. So you're looking at the front of the White House, you got to sand it, and you got to tape it and mask it and putty it and then paint it, and then you move around to the side, you do the same thing, and you move around to the back and the other side. By the time you get back to the front, it's 7 years later and you start over again. So what do I mean? Remember I said I walked into Warner Brothers and there were 3 faces that were new, but that meant that there were 3 other faces that I had seen in the past that were not there. It is a continual process of getting the word out about New Jersey, because as much as we could live in a bubble and think that people know about us, there are a lot that don't. There are more that don't. So for me, the outlook is rosy because, boy, we're just scratching the surface of getting the word out to people and spreading the word. It's like, you've thrown parties, right? And you call somebody and they go, oh, I didn't know that you guys were having a party. Well, I'm calling you to let you know I'm having a party. Well, that's what we're doing. We're throwing a big party here. And the word is getting out. And when we were at the Happy Gilmore set, Adam Sandler walked down and he's like, geez, everybody's saying New Jersey's the place to go. And it's like, great, the word is spreading. That's a really bad Adam Sandler. That's the best I could do. I walked myself into that corner. Sorry about that. I was like, what am I doing? But that's what's happening. The word is spreading. So I'm enthused because we didn't used to do this sort of aggressive outreach, and now we're doing that. And I'm excited because I think we are going to start to get more and more business. I think the number is going to be ticking up. Witness, why do we have 12 productions in a historically very slow time of the year? In the winter, production is generally way down this time of the year. And by December, we'll have 15 or 16 productions.
All right. Any words of encouragement do we have filmmakers here? Any filmmakers? All right. Any words of encouragement for filmmakers? And also, Chris, I thought about this, we talked a lot about our tax incentive program since we have filmmakers here. Is there a threshold where it's beneficial for a filmmaker, or is there like a bottom line that it doesn't really make sense to apply for the tax incentive program?
At a certain point, yes. There's, like I said earlier, there's no actual minimum to apply, but there are some fees associated with the program. Like a part of the program, you need to pay to have an independent CPA come in and certify your costs. And like that fee alone, we don't get involved with that. But I've heard CPAs charging anywhere from like $5,000 to $15,000 for that. There's some other fees too with the program, like budget review fee, a couple other things that end up being about like $1,500. So having said that, sometimes with those fees, if somebody's getting back a credit of like say $50,000, and then the fees are eating into like $20,000 of it almost at that point already. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to go through the effort, but it's really up to each individual production and if it's worth it to them to go through it for however much money they would be getting.
Any final words before we head to Q&A? Words of encouragement from our filmmakers, or
Come film in New Jersey.
yeah.
Come talk to the Film Commission. We'll help you.
Stay in New Jersey.
Don't be intimidated to apply for incentives or ask or reach out to the EDA and ask about incentives. My job and one other's at the EDA is strictly to help people, to essentially make it so that way they don't need to hire a consultant to apply for the incentive. So don't hesitate to reach out and at least ask. It doesn't hurt.
Wonderful. All right, we'd like to open the floor up for questions. Yes.
I have a question regarding, you mentioned Bayonne is setting up studios, which Bayonne is hard to get in and out of without studios there. Is the state starting to do things at
There recently was a infrastructure a grant, I believe, that was offered through the EDA. I believe West Orange received one of the grants.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who else has received the grants or if the money's still available at the moment, but I mean, that's one thing I'm aware of. I would assume that, there'll be impact studies done and stuff will be addressed, but I'm not aware of anything further at the time.
With all these projects, and I can speak as a council person, so I'm taking my film commissioner hat off, and as a councilman, in the whole review process there, it goes through the planning boards. Like I know at Netflix, at Fort Monmouth, they're still in that process, and I know they've already changed out electric and water. I don't know if you knew this, but when a fort is built, it has to have its own independent power and water because it's a fort. And so that all got tied into the cities of Oceanport and Eatontown. Yeah. So I am certain that is going on with Bayonne. But to Chris's point, now I've only been on the position for 6 months, so I don't know the specifics in Bayonne. But I know you're absolutely correct. West Orange, that was going through a whole infrastructure grant and loan and planning and all that.
Specifically for film studio infrastructure, too.
Hi, I have two questions. Regarding the tax credit incentive, does that include extras?
You mean like do the extras salaries qualify?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, great. And then my second question, what is the status of the Lionsgate studio in Newark? What is...
They're approved as a studio partner right now. The EDA, they're one of three. So we have 2 approvals so far, Netflix and them. As far as the actual construction, the last I've heard, they're eyeing next year to begin construction. Obviously, the demolition and all that is already done. So I believe they're eyeing next year. I believe either end of 26 or 27 is what they're eyeing right now. They do, in the case of any delays, they would have up to, I think they can get 2 6-month extensions, but they have 3 years from the time of their approval to actually have the facility finished. So.
Hi, I'm actually a filmmaker from Georgia, but I do have a question.
Did we say anything bad about Georgia? Are we
I
good?
did not.
Are we
We
good?
did
All
not.
right.
Might have made some
Not this
references.
time.
All right. Okay,
we're,
good.
We're good. I live in Atlanta. We're good. But I do have a question as an independent filmmaker. You mentioned studios and streamers. What are some of the incentives that are aggressively being done to recruit just independent filmmakers, regardless of where they live? And then the second part is, what's your post-production tax incentive?
Sure. So right now, the legacy program is geared very much towards small projects and large projects. So the way our fee structures are created right now, essentially, if you're an independent project or any project that has a budget of less than $1 million, your application fees and everything like that are negligible. So you pay a $100 application fee, a $100 approval fee, and I think a $100 issuance fee. Whereas if you're a project that's over $10 million, over a $30 million budget, which we refer to as a mega, they're paying a $20,000 application fee, they're paying a $50,000 approval fee, and a $50,000 issuance fee. So we try to make it so that way the bigger productions are kind of paying for the smaller productions to be able to, get into the game.
There's something else important for somebody like you is we say within the commission there is no discrimination between a project that's $30 million or $70 million and a production that's $500,000 or even $100,000. You call us and you say we need help with trying to find certain locations, we're there for you. You need help in finding out what's information that we need with working with, say, child labor, we're there for you. Why is that? Because quite frankly, you're putting people to work, whether that's you're doing a rental at a camera house or at a G&E facility or your crew. it's all, at the end of the day, we're all part of the same team. So there is zero discrimination between the little and the big.
And as far as the post-production incentive goes, so that is a little bit different from the legacy film tax credit. It's kind of based on projects that are accumulated over a fiscal year. So you would need to spend at least $500,000 on the post-production activity over the course of a year through multiple projects if necessary. And then you would be eligible for 35% tax credit if you're an independent, if you're using an independent post-production company, or 40% if you're doing it at one of these studio partner or film lease partner facilities.
Any other questions? Yes, back here.
So you spoke a lot about tax incentives, but you also mentioned the programs to help streamline the process a little bit for production companies moving here and looking into locations in New Jersey, for example, like the Film Ready program. So I can understand the strong economic benefit for the tax incentives, where it would help local municipalities and, like, I guess in the long term benefit things like tourism, for example, and then maybe like boost real estate prices down the line and whatnot. But I'd just like to clarify a little bit. Was there any like state push or need to increase, improve New Jersey's image in terms of being a leader in the industry, and in terms of reestablishing New Jersey as a place where film can really blossom?
I think, I mean, Elizabeth, I can only speak of the last 6 months. Elizabeth has been with the commission longer than I have. I know that in addition to all the outreach with studios and networks that I've talked about, one thing that we're very excited about is in May 1st, we're going to be putting on, and this isn't coming from the state, this is the commission saying, like, these are the things that we want to do to really spread the word about what's going on in New Jersey. We're going to do a big trade show. We're going to do it in a big venue, and we're going to invite any and all of our vendor suppliers, rental houses, our film-ready towns, but whatever you can think of in terms of lights, cranes, our wardrobe trucks, production vehicles, caterers, going to put them all under one roof, and then get a lot of press to go out to the industry to say, whatever you need, we've got it right here. It used to be, as I mentioned earlier, we didn't have cameras, motion picture cameras in state for 2.5 years. So about a month ago, the commission was doing a lot of outreach with different vendors. We found a vendor, and they were like, we've been trying to break into film because we primarily do theatrical lighting and audio, but we do handle cameras at our facilities in Los Angeles and Pittsburgh. So they're going to relocate Aeroflex and Sony and Panasonic cinematic cameras here to Secaucus, because, as we say, if you're in a production, you probably don't have the money to float 3 cameras anymore, so you're down to 2. If one of them goes down, what does that mean? You're cutting 2 camera department people loose, 2 Teamsters, putting them in a vehicle, driving all the way to Brooklyn. They get there, they take the cameras out of the box, they're trying the lenses, the couplers, they're going through the menu, make sure that the camera body's behaving, it's not overheating, back in the box, back in the truck, back to location. That's 6 hours. That's 6 hours down where second unit is just twiddling their thumbs. And that's inexcusable. Remember I talked about getting rid of the no's? That is another no that we've eliminated. I'm sure Panavision will be here soon enough, but that's the sort of messaging that we're trying to do on the commission side to the studios and networks of, like, again, I'm repeating myself, whatever you need, we got it right here.
So just to clarify, is that push, this aggressive push and all these new facilities being built, is that more with an economic goal in mind, or is this more to establish New Jersey as like the next Hollywood or the next New York?
I think it's, Carol, why don't you,
I
it's
think
both.
It's jobs. It's an industry, and it's when you think about how factories and industries in the United States have dwindled over the last couple decades, this is one huge growth industry, and we have it here already. We have the infrastructure in terms of crew and the resources that have been developed in New York because so many of the people live here in New Jersey. It kind of makes a lot of business sense. And then ultimately a state's budget, and the way it works is labor, right? And the more employed is, what
This sounds cheesy, but I've said it before, and I really do mean it, is when I go to sleep at night, no lie, how many times have you heard me say this? Sometimes I get emotional over it, is I go to sleep at night and I'm thinking, are we doing everything that we possibly can? Are we thinking all the angles of how do we get people to work? That is, at the end of the day, just what Carol said is like, that's what it's all about. How do we keep people to work? So the factory gates, this industry of New Jersey, are just opening wider. And we're trying not to outsource to any other place on the globe and keep the jobs here in the U.S., specifically here in New Jersey.
Thanks so
And
much.
so part of that is that we really thank Governor Murphy and the legislature for their leadership on this and their vision on standing this industry up really tall and seeing this opportunity here. And as both Carol and John had mentioned, the workforce development piece, there's an entire ecosystem. There's the revenue, right? There's the pride of seeing New Jersey at the forefront of the industry. How cool is it to see your town on the big screen? You know, there's an element there that you just can't pay for that, right? And then there's the branding. You know, New Jersey and the Film Commission, we've always had production in New Jersey. The difference is that instead of the 1-2 days, now we're seeing full features filming in New Jersey. We're seeing miniseries, we're seeing television shows, so the retention we're continuing to see in New Jersey, and that in itself is branding New Jersey as a really awesome state to do business, to come here, to live, to work, to play, to everything, to film. Any other questions? Yes.
Hi. One aspect of the business that is still in LA that has not really shifted to the East Coast are the writers' rooms. I'm part of the writers, one of the writers who went out to Albany and was lobbying for the diversity credit. Have you been working on any aspect of meeting with the networks and the studios to help us bring writers' rooms to New Jersey versus LA?
So in my wallet right now is my WGA card. So one of the proudest moments of my career was when I got that card. I had a meeting along with some of the other commission members with the WGA, DGA, and SAG, their Comp 2 meeting, and talking about all that stuff. I think it depends on you know as well as I do how it works. With these incentives, again, we're trying to get production to stay longer. TV is the best because when they land, they're here for months on end. And talk about an ecosystem. So it's about trying to convince the showrunners. So we're going out in December. The governor's coming out. When the governor comes out on one of these trips, it's like spreading pixie dust. Everybody loves meeting the governor because they know that, I don't want to get political, but they know there's no drama in this state. And so the studios and networks love that they can move in here and it's not going to be crazy time, on the news with what's going on in Trenton. So there's an attraction there. They love that the governor and the current members of our assembly and our Senate are solidly behind this industry. So it's really convincing all of them to move the production here. And when we get those series out here, is the production going to be setting up everything? Are they going to be doing the writing out here? We try to do whatever we can to make it easy on them to say, just bring it all out here. There's no need to have the writer's room, 3,000 miles away. It depends on where the showrunner is. So the reason I mentioned December, sorry, I got off track, is one of the meetings is going to be at an agency and with the lineup of the showrunners that are under they're working under that agency and trying to convince the showrunners because that's where that decision is being made on those shows. It's a little different than on the film side, right? So that's part of the process.
Yes.
It's a tough one because the writers, we need more writers here in New Jersey, and when the great writers are here, like you, then and are at the stature that they can say, we're going to be here. And then the writer's room will be here. But it's not something that's going to happen like that. That's a development thing. And
How you doing? Can you further elaborate on the credits and the incentives for developers and how that would work in terms of developing studios, in terms of, how are they issued and at what stage do you go to the state for those incentives?
Yeah, sure. So from at least my experience with the one approval that we've had so far, they essentially had most of everything locked down already. There's another EDA program too called Aspire, and that is a real estate developer incentive essentially. So the 1888 had already started their working with the Aspire team first, and it's the main part of that program. It's a gap funding program essentially. So they started out with getting all their ducks in a row with the town, with financing, all that good stuff. Then they applied for Aspire. Aspire closed part of the gap in their financing, and that's when they were able to finally come to us with a complete portfolio essentially, and a capital stack of what their project was going to look like. Based on all that information, we were able to give them approval, and now they're moving into the construction phase. So part of what it takes for us to give them approval, we need we need the company to have site control. We need a full development plan. We need the town. We need essentially an agreement with the town to be in place, and then we need to see evidence of project viability with a capital stack as well. So once all those things are in place, then the application would come in to us. Having said that, though, definitely we've had conversations with developers before that's taken place. They just haven't exactly submitted their applications.
We have time for one more question. All the way in the back, yes.
So I was just wondering if there are any specific incentives or resources for small production companies that are based in New Jersey that might not qualify, working on budgets of like maybe 20,000 for projects or 50,000, like besides the tax credit. Is there any resources for kind of more small business productions in New Jersey?
On the incentive side, there is not. However, these folks here at the Film Commission absolutely could be a great resource for you guys.
There is one. Ready?
What?
We can get you a certificate. This is easy to waive the 6.6% sales tax, which on a budget your size, every little bit helps. So you're setting up a production office. You're getting edit rigs, hard drives, furniture. Things in the qualified spend. Yeah, anything used in the production. So I look at that, as I said, that's nothing to sneeze at. And every little bit helps. And then on top of whatever resources we can offer to sort of lighten the load, in terms of locations or putting you in touch with other state agencies to help with your production.
Like I said earlier, I've definitely had productions reach out and be like, "Wow, I did not need a 4-person location department." Because they, Joe Mara, who works for them, is so they're so helpful at getting locations out. They'll basically be the liaison between you and the town for you a lot of the time, and help you. They'll basically be like, "This is what you do to get a permit. This is who you reach out to. This is how much it is. Here's the paperwork." So there's a lot of things that they do to make life, a lot easier for smaller productions, and probably could even save money in certain areas.
There's also, on our website too, with that NJ 411, there are resources there. Like, let's say your reality show and you're doing casting. You need a business, or you're needing performers, or you need crew. There are things that we can do to point you in the direction in those areas too that'll help.
A town with free permits, stuff like that, they could point you in that direction.
I just want one last thing I wanted to add about when we keep referring to the Film Commission on there. I've dealt with a lot of film commissions around the country, and New Jersey is the best, and they will answer any question. They have the resources, and they figure it out for you, and they'll go to a town, or they'll warn you. You know, as much as you like the look of that town, why don't you consider this instead, because that town isn't really excited about you coming here. And they won't badmouth a town, but as much as refer you to another place that might have a, and that's a real hands-on, exceptional film commission.
That's true. We do have a very deep knowledge about towns, and so we can save productions a lot of time when they're coming to New Jersey, and we just offer really that. We really roll out the red carpet for any size production, as John had mentioned, whether you're a student filmmaker or you're a big budget production coming to New Jersey. Okay, this wraps our time, and I want to thank our panelists, Chris, John, Carol, for a wonderful conversation, very informative. Our panelists will be available after the conclusion to stick around, and if you have any additional questions. So thank you once again for a wonderful discussion.
Thanks for having us.